Would you consider giving up sex for a year just to be able to travel again? You won't believe how many people said they would. A mother shares her terrifying story of going into cardiac arrest during birth and flatlining for 37 seconds.
So imagine being buried alive and you're just holding your breath. I am acutely aware that this is the day I'm going to die.
Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
What? Welcome to DBL. If you only knew what we were talking about before Chris, our senior executive producer, counted us in.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
All right, it's Friday, and there's Bert clapping away, making sure that he gets camera time.
It's like old times.
It is Friday.
Love it.
I'm here with Jeff and Tori. Mr. Al joining us from home. Hey, Al, I'm sure you have FOMO over there.
And Sam, do me a favor.
Yes.
Tell Bert he was supposed to call me last night and he didn't, so shame on him.
Al was upset at you. You were supposed to call him last night and you did not. Ooh is right.
He's got nothing.
Way to call him out. I like it. All right, it's going to be a good show. So let's get started. For the first time since giving up his royal duties, maybe for the first time ever, we're seeing what Prince Harry is really like, or at least what he's like on late night TV with James Corden, and we even hear him rap. Take a look.
Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Now, take a minute.
Sit right there.
Sit right there.
I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called
Bel Air.
Look at
Yep, the segment was shot all over LA. We got to see Meghan Markle FaceTime her hubby. Apparently, her pet name for him is Haz.
Haz.
Oh, Haz. Thank you, Tori. And Harry even dished about when he knew she was the one.
The second date, I was starting to think, wow, this is pretty special. Everything was done back to front with us. So actually, we got to spend an enormous amount of time, just the two of us, rather than going to friends' houses or out for dinner where there were other distractions. There were no distractions. We went from 0 to 60, like in the first 2 months.
Wow, I think they're on the Starr Tours bus,
That's
right?
a cool place to interview.
So cool. And
Social
how
distance
ironic.
outside.
Perfect.
Yeah.
In a candid moment, Harry revealed the reason he left Britain behind.
We all know what the British press can be like, and it was destroying my mental health. I was like, this is toxic.
Yeah.
So I did what any husband and what any father would do, is like, I need to get my family out of here. But we never walked away. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever decisions are made on that side, I will never walk away.
Now, the interview was filmed before the Queen confirmed that he and Meghan would lose all the royal duties, and before his big interview with Oprah, which, by the way, airs in just a few days, March 7th. Al, nothing like leaving, London to escape the press for Hollywood. I'm kidding.
That's funny. I mean, but honestly, that's a different kind of press. That press was persecuting him. And, it's just like, I know we look at the royals and we say, well, nothing about their life equates to ours, but I think in this situation, it does. If you think about, like, maybe you go to a family member's house for Halloween, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and they say things that you don't like, say things in front of your kids that you don't like. They attack you and you don't like it. You don't have to stay there. Just because they give you know what doesn't mean you have to take it. So I'm glad he did what he did. They were abusing him and his wife, and he made a move. You don't have to stay in there and take abuse. If you don't like it, don't show up to wherever what's happening that you don't care for.
And I'm with Al, and I was kidding before, but there is some truth to the statement in the sense that when you go to LA, and yes, we know how inappropriate and dangerous the press is over in England. But I would equate that to Hollywood, too. Look what they've done to Britney Spears. Look what they've done to a number of big stars to the point where we've witnessed mental breakdowns. So I don't know how much they're going to escape this.
I think the trauma, though, that we always forget about is his mom. I think we forget the British press literally murdered his mother. They hunted Diana down and murdered her. And I don't think you can let that go in this story. When he says the press ruined my mental health, they took away his mother. I mean, you can talk about getting too close and all that, but she was killed because of it. So I think that's really a part of it, is that the British press on that end are different than the American press. They chased her into her death.
Well, he's a royal, which no one can relate to, right? But people can relate to getting bullied on social media. They can't relate to press chasing them around. But he's also talking about social media and that they're bullies, and his wife is a huge victim of that on there. So you could relate to that, right? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not all into Harry and Meghan and things like that. He sounded more relatable here. And when we sat down with James Corden, he did that little rap. I'm like, you know what? I want to hear him out a little bit. Now I'm really looking forward to Oprah's interview, which, by the way, I don't want to start a whole new thing here, but what do you think about James Corden releasing his interview before Oprah?
Smart.
Yeah, but Oprah must be so mad.
Smart.
Wouldn't you be mad at your Oprah? You get the moment for Prince Harry to open up and James Corden got him rapping?
Well, I do think you're going to get two totally different interviews.
Right, but
you're going to get the relatable interview with him rapping and having a good time on top of a Starr Tours bus with James Corden, and I really think that we're going to hear more about the mental health aspect and even parenthood when it comes to, and his family and the royal duties when it comes to Oprah.
Yeah.
But I don't blame James Corden for trying to capitalize on all that buzz.
Yeah.
Interesting nonetheless.
All right, so some big news on the vaccine front. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is set to become the third to be approved for use in America. The FDA could release its decision by this evening. This would be the first single-shot vaccine approved for use. Now, meantime, we're about a year into the pandemic, and people are starting to get really stir-crazy. Believe it or not, a lot of Americans are willing to give up some pretty crazy things just in order to go on vacation again. So according to Trivago, a survey, 48% of people would give up their job, 38% would give up sex for an entire year.
That's insane.
5 or 20% of people would dump their partner to go on vacation. I get it. I totally get it. Yeah, I wouldn't dump my partner because I don't like to go on vacation by myself.
That's why? You wouldn't dump Mark?
Stipulation to this stupid survey.
Ow, I get it, man. I get it.
You know, Sam, I really do hope that, obviously, they always say silver linings, but this COVID situation has been a nightmare for all of us. But if we are all going to take any silver linings away, and I actually was talking to Mark Summers, who was on our show yesterday, we were texting last night, and I was saying, this really showed me going forward what I care about and what I don't. So if traveling is important to you, go do it. Don't put it off, and next year, like, save some money, don't go to the bar for a month, and go do what you want to do, because I think this showed everybody that nothing is guaranteed.
Giving up sex for a year? What are you talking about?
What do you do on vacation?
I think a lot of people do that anyway.
Oh, I'm just thinking giving up your partner, giving up your job. I want a vacation like the next guy. Giving up sex for a year is insanity to me for that.
I don't know. The truffles in Paris are pretty damn close.
Yeah, but what do you do when you go to Paris? You meet a guy, you meet a girl, you have sex in Paris. Yeah, that's what you do.
If you're with somebody.
Then you have even more so. You think I'm going to go to Paris with my wife and not have sex with her?
Have you tried the pasta in Italy?
Wow.
I think this segment is more about what's going on with Sam than people traveling.
Did you hear what Sam said? She said, hey, you tried the pasta in Italy, meaning she could do without the sex. She'd rather have the pasta out.
No.
What do you mean no? That's exactly what you meant.
Stop.
No.
This is a bigger issue. We don't have time. Sam is on this like, I'm not like a sexual being anymore. Sam, you are a young woman. You got to get over that. You got to get out there and start swinging again.
Said that. How dare you say that?
You imply it all the time with your pasta comments.
Well, I am still nursing my little one, and I do view,
your body
more like feeding tools.
Yes, feeding tools.
Yeah,
it's all about
that was
feeding.
really
Feeding
hot
the baby,
right
feeding
there.
yourself.
Stop.
Okay, Al. Give me a couple months. Jeez, I have two tiny little ones at home. Just come on.
Pump the brakes, Al.
Jeez, coming up on DBL.
Go to Italy and not have any sex.
I'm looking out for Mark.
Mark's fine, trust me. Okay? I don't tell you everything on this show.
Yeah, there's my girl.
Coming up on DBL, new developments in the Lady Gaga dog napping saga. Will police be able to find the people responsible? Plus, the stories behind the pictures. A photographer is opening up about some of rock's biggest stars, and a man is turning the tables and suing his female boss for gender discrimination. Does he have a case? It's a good debate. We're going to have it next.
This is a smile.
So Stephanie, let's fast forward to delivery day. You go into labor early, your husband is out of town. What happens when you get to the hospital?
I'm scared out of my mind because I am acutely aware that this is the day I'm going to die. And so imagine being buried alive and you're just holding your breath, or like trying to get as much air as you can as the dirt is being pushed onto you. And so I'm being triaged. The doctor's like,
At DBL, we're always on.
I'm in control. You're trying to give a conversation up here.
Shouldn't he be held accountable?
Absolutely.
This is where I'm going to push back.
Is this my shocked face?
Tori, I will walk off the set.
You should.
This February, DBL is all new
I agree with Al on this one.
every day.
Yeah, wow, I said it, Tori. Yo.
I'm in control, 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 control.
Welcome back to DBL. Check out all our coworkers at home during the pandemic. Keep up the great work, everyone. We miss you. So a British man is suing his former employer for gender discrimination. He says he worked in a woman-dominated lab and claims his female boss, who you see here, instructed him to carry boxes, quote, because you're a man. When he explained to her that he could not because of a hernia, he says she told him to, quote, man up. So the man also claims his boss repeatedly told him to go away during girls-only conversations, and he was told, quote, you're lucky to have your job, as everyone was shocked that it was a guy being employed. We normally only employ females because men are less organized. So we got to talk about this. DBL Nation, chime in. We always love to hear from you. What do you think of this? Is it fair for a man to sue for gender discrimination? Jeff.
I kind of wanted to hear your arguments for this.
I'm 100% think he should sue for gender discrimination.
Okay.
If the shoe was on the other foot, we would all be up in arms if we saw a female employee being talked down to, being boiled down to gender stereotypes, for being isolated from conversation because she's a female and they're having men's only conversations. So yeah, I don't blame him one bit.
Are you going to defend this or no?
1000% agree. You can't have discrimination on gender and only have it for women.
Jeff thought he was going to have a battle.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to defend this.
No, and let me tell you something.
Can I throw something in here?
Please.
The only caveat, and we'll never know this because we don't work there, but our workplace, I mean, you see, I just heard Brooke's name when we came back from commercial break, so Lord knows what you guys were talking about. But we are a very relaxed group, and we talk and we joke and we laugh a lot. And sometimes the lines can be blurred, and if somebody takes something the wrong way or overhears something, unless you just want to have a completely sterile professional situation. Now, is that what we want for all workplaces? So I'm anti what happened here, but I'm just saying I worry about it just getting too sterile. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think this is the repercussions of what all that other, whatever you call it, woke. I'm 42 and I say woke. I hate myself. So it's whatever that
you should hate
this
yourself
is the
for other
repercussions from that, right? It's getting ridiculous. So when someone says man up, they're not telling you to be a man. They're saying, hey, get tough, get that box. They're not being gender specific and making fun of your gender. There are terms out there that people use in their everyday language, and then people somehow dissect that into being offended in some other sort of way.
But
so,
what if she says that a lot to him, especially
well, no,
when
I'm all for it. I'm all for being sued. I'm all for Terry Crews suing whoever sexually harassed him too. It doesn't mean if you're a man you can't sue back, but this is the repercussions, and it's going to happen more and more, I think.
It should, because it's accountability. I hate cancel culture. It's actually accountability culture. That's what it should be called.
Interesting. She's trying to rename it, Jeff.
She's trying to get the last word in.
Did it.
You lost. Yeah, exactly. Is that our viewers or is that Al?
Al, I hope you weren't just sleeping on Miss Corey's.
He was.
I just heard accountability culture, and that was my sleep number.
No, because I'm just saying very quickly, everyone has cancel culture, and at some point it's also consequence culture, and we don't like to say that, but I'll say that.
Consequence culture.
Add it to the box.
Coming up on DBL, the unbelievable true story of a mother's psychic visions that ended up saving her life after dying for 37 seconds. She's telling us all about her ordeal, and a photographer behind some of rock's most iconic pictures is sharing memories from the legend we all know and love. That's coming up next.
Hi, I'm Lori Green.
There are a lot of numbers thrown around when it comes to Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine. But what do they mean? Let's connect the dots. The FDA has released its analysis of the single-shot COVID vaccine, reporting it was 66% effective in preventing moderate to severe cases around the world. But when you don't include moderate cases, it's 85% effective in preventing severe illness. What's even more impressive was it completely prevented hospitalizations and death. Even some of the figures that don't look as promising have a silver lining. Johnson & Johnson's shot was only 64% effective in South African trials, where a contagious variant is now responsible for most cases. But that's significantly better than other vaccines tried in the country and led the government to stop administering the AstraZeneca vaccine and start giving Johnson & Johnson's instead. The other reason health experts think the Johnson & Johnson vaccine could be an effective weapon in the war on COVID is it's a single shot. Plus, it can be stored at normal refrigeration temperatures for at least 3 months, making it easier to distribute and fully vaccinate people.
Welcome back to DBL. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, Ringo, and Paul. You've seen many of these legends, but what is it like to be the guy behind the camera taking the pictures? I spoke to prolific music photographer Rob Shanahan, and he told me it's cooler than you imagined. Here's part 2 of our series, Rock Legends. Welcome, Rob Shanahan, to Daily Blast Live. Now, earlier, you told us about your journey into music, photography, and the story behind one of your most recognizable photos of Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. But I want to get more stories of some behind the scenes on some of these photos. So first up, we got Joey Cramer and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith looking very excited.
Oh, yeah, Aerosmith. Anytime I get to work with those guys, you know, it's exactly how you would hope they would be.
Okay, that's good. I wanted to know that. They're the same guys.
Steven Tyler is exactly the guy you see on TV or see on stage. Amazing, and you know, one of my all-time favorite rock bands growing up, Aerosmith. Come on, we're all such huge Aerosmith fans. So working with those guys has always been a real treat. And again, you know, they let me go on stage during the show. That shot was, you know, just a moment on stage with Aerosmith. You know, their shows are so high energy, and I wanted to capture some of that energy into a frame. And, you know, great story behind, you know, shooting on stage with Aerosmith. One time, Steven Tyler comes up, as I'm standing on stage, he comes up and starts singing into my camera, like the way, and gets a little closer, and he decides he needs to clean my lens. So he takes his scarf and he cleans my lens in the middle of the show.
Good. That's so good. It's such a good Aerosmith scarf story, because he does have a lot of them. They're always around, so that's helpful.
Yeah, great show, great band. You know, I enjoy working with those guys. Really amazing.
That's amazing. All right, last one is a backstage photo of Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones and Ringo Starr. Tell me about this.
So it was 2009. The Rolling Stones were here in town. Playing at Dodger Stadium. So I called Ringo. I'm like, man, Charlie Watts is in town. When's the last time you guys got together? So I made a few other phone calls, and the next day we got together at Ringo's house, and that photo was just another split second of time. Ringo was showing Charlie something on this electronic drum kit in his house. And he got up and handed the sticks to Charlie. Hey, check it out, Charlie. And Charlie grabbed the sticks and he came back and he sat down. What I love about that photo is if you look at their faces and see the smiles, it's so genuine.
Yeah.
You know, and I look back at all the photos, and, you know, it's been a good long run, and I'm really happy with what we've done. And my first book came out 2011. It's been a while. And Ringo, you know, God bless him, wrote the foreword for my book. And when my book came out, my friends from back home, you know, small town Minnesota where I grew up, freaked out. You got Ringo Starr to write the foreword to your book.
All right, this leads me into a question about Ringo. But as his personal photographer, you had a front row seats to his later years. So what has that experience been like? Are y'all close? Are you artistically kind of matched? How did that work?
I've had a really great long run with Ringo Starr. You know, such an iconic, amazing drummer. And, you know, to have that opportunity has been out of this world, and I have to thank Sheila E. for that. You know,
I heard about this, yeah.
Beautiful Sheila E. I love so much. I started working with her late 90s, and you know, I've been doing all her records and drum ads for the drum manufacturers, and her and I connected on such a level. And you know, when she got the call to do the All-Star Tour, you know, she pulled me in and introduced me to Ringo backstage.
That's amazing. Rob Shanahan, it has been an absolute pleasure. Now, to see more of Rob's work and maybe get something for your walls or the music fan in your life, check out robshanahan.com, and be sure to check out Rob's book, Volume 1, Through the Lens of a Music Photographer. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Promotional.
Start with the claim. Quote, the COVID-19 vaccine really isn't a vaccine in the medical definition of a vaccine, end quote. Why are we talking about this? Well, posts like these have been showing up for months saying that the vaccines aren't legitimate and that taking them could change your DNA or cause other frightening outcomes. So let's verify. Are these claims accurate? Do existing COVID-19 vaccines fail to meet the medical definition of vaccine? Our sources are the CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services, and Dr. Daniel Salmon, a professor at Johns Hopkins with specialties in epidemiology and vaccine safety. So right off the bat, these posts are misleading. They talk about the medical definition of a vaccine, but there isn't just one single definition. The DHHS actually lists multiple types of vaccines. They work differently, but their purpose is the same. They prevent disease.
What a preventative vaccine is something you give to your body that stimulates an immune response so that if and when you're exposed to the natural infection, your body will already be prepared to respond. Certainly, the COVID vaccines fall into that category of being a preventative vaccines.
So the vaccines are legitimate. And as for the second part of the claim, well, the CDC and Dr. Salmon say existing vaccines don't change or interact with your DNA in any way.
People think, oh my God, it's gonna change my DNA or it's somehow altering my DNA. And that's not the case at all. I mean, it's a technological approach. I mean, if you think about it, if you eat an apple, you've just eaten the DNA of an apple. That doesn't mean that it's going to change your DNA. It's certainly not going to turn you into an apple, right?
So bottom line, these claims are false. With the Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
This February, DBL is all new every day.
Hold on.
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Really? Okay. Like, it is such a joke. I was shocked.
I meant for you to chime in on.
I don't know what you're saying.
DBL is just getting started.
Here come the Pistons.
I love this story. Stick with us in 2021. We're going to have a great year. Next week on DBL, stories you won't see anywhere else. We're following a model's emotional journey as she makes the life-altering decision to amputate both of her legs. And we reveal a huge surprise.
Oh, I don't even know what to say. I'm like blushing, I'm sweating.
Plus, from Gabe to Gabby, a former WWE wrestler comes out as transgender and lives her truth for the first time.
I had just reached the point where I could no longer hide who I really was.
And a Golden Globes wrap direct from Hollywood. Our friend, Entertainment Tonight's Kevin Frazier joins us with the winners, the losers, and the night's biggest surprises. That's all next week, right here on DBL.
If you're leaving us, you can catch the second half of the show on Facebook or YouTube. But if you're sticking around, here's what's coming up on DBL. Tom Cruise. Is that you? You'll be shocked when you find out the real story behind this video. And imagine predicting your own death, then dying, then coming back to life to tell your story. One mother is telling us all about it. DBL's new every day. We'll be right back.
Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
3, 2. Welcome to DBL. I'm Sam here with Jeff and Tori. Al, who's been texting me some fighting words type of stuff, Al. Good one, Sam.
No, Sam, can you tell everybody the phrase that you used and have our viewers decide if that was the right way to approach it?
What are you talking about?
The throwing glass houses.
Oh. Well, yes, you were making fun of the way I read teleprompter.
You don't throw rocks at glass houses.
Albert.
Yes.
I'm being told we need to move on. We are, okay. So let's get right to it, because I know that a lot of you have been following the Lady Gaga case. We have been as well. We are learning more about the terrifying moments surrounding Lady Gaga's dog napping. Los Angeles police are still looking for 2 suspects who stole 2 of the singer's French bulldogs and shot her dog walker in the chest. Lady Gaga is also offering a $500,000 reward for the safe return of her dogs, no questions asked. Thankfully, her dog walker, Ryan Fisher, is expected to make a full recovery. Surveillance video obtained by teams traumatic. TMZ is also reporting that the LAPD is looking into the possibility that the suspects knew the dogs belonged to Lady Gaga and that it was a targeted operation. That was the first time I've seen that video. I purposely did not watch it earlier because I didn't want to see it, but wow, you know, my heart goes out to Ryan, and I hope that he makes a full recovery.
Yeah, apparently he was shot in the lung and he's going to be okay, which is incredible. People were there right on site right away to help him out. I'm praying for Ryan and his family, but I have to say, I think this was targeted. I thought that from the beginning. It reminded me a little bit of the Kim Kardashian robbery. It's super organized, super planned. They knew she was out of town. They knew he wasn't having any security. She usually is a bodyguard. And I think these criminals are upping their stance to get higher and higher money and more expensive
stuff. For ransom, in your opinion?
I think they knew she would pay anything without question.
What's the end game, though? Okay, so I hope Ryan's okay, too. I'm glad he is. He's breathing on his own. It seems like he's going to be fine. I'm sure Lady Gaga is going to take care of him as well. But that aside, what is the end game for these criminals? You didn't have to shoot this man, first of all. Now you have an attempted murder charge.
Yep.
You're lucky he didn't die because you would have had a murder charge. Now you have an attempted murder charge because you shot him for no reason, right? You think you're going to set up a sting where you leave a briefcase in the bushes and you're going to put the dogs in location X and you're going to pick up the money and nobody's going to find out? There's cameras everywhere. There's a $500,000 reward out for you. 3 people are going to jail for a very long time because times are tough, and it doesn't give an excuse to act like this.
Right.
You know, the story goes much deeper than what it is. I'm glad he's okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Al, you said this yesterday. There's some people that are just wired to be criminal, and they're cold-hearted. They have no empathy. So not only are they trying to make money, to Jeff's point, but the added step of shooting someone and potentially killing someone it just shows how callous these individuals are.
It's thoughtless and cruel, Sam. And, you know, we're talking about Lady Gaga, and obviously she's in Italy on a project. And it really made me think about Dr. Dre. Remember, he went to the hospital for a brain aneurysm a month or a month and a half ago, and his house was robbed. I mean, it's definitely, these criminals follow the news just like anybody else, and it's for everybody else as well. When you post, hey, I got both my vaccines, I'm going to Hawaii for a month, well, not just your friends are reading that.
Yeah. Well, I really do hope that they catch these people, and they have to go away for a really long time. Tom Cruise has become a viral hit on TikTok, or has he? So the account Deep Tom Cruise has been posting videos featuring what looks like the Mission Impossible star. Wow, there he is taking a swing on a golf course. Here it is. In reality, the videos are likely deep fakes of the actor, which is when an image is digitally replaced on another person. You be the judge. Watch.
I'm going to show you some magic. It's the real thing. I mean, it's all the real thing.
Whoa, we're officially in the future.
Dude.
So what do you think? Here's real Tom on the left, fake Tom on the right. Can you see the difference? That's crazy. This scares me. The technology today could set someone up for such a dangerous fall where what if you don't know?
What if it's, I've always thought this, what if it's like the nuclear code situation? I'm not just saying this could send people to war. I mean, I know I'm kind of sounding crazy.
No, that's like the far end of it.
But that is the extreme. It's not just one person, it's a country, because you have whoever the president is manipulating their mouth saying, I give the okay. I mean, that's the far end of this, I think.
Oh, and I think a lot of people talk about that. I was actually thinking that
Really?
in my head too, because they're getting so good. They're still not perfect right now, but they're getting so good. I think it started.
Yeah.
It started with Obama's. Obama's came out. So if you did have a president talking like that, and you did declare
that
some
holds
sort of
power, man.
But there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, you can look at this and be like, why would Tom Cruise do a magic trick and kind of come to your senses and say, oh, this is a joke? Plus, he's not like verified and things like that. There's other ways. But there's a lot of people on there just scrolling and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe Tom Cruise did that. So if you see something that sparks some sort of war or violence or hate, it is very dangerous.
Terrible.
And that's the far end of
They
that.
need to, there needs to be some consequences here. It scares me. I don't like, squandering or squashing free speech, but this is a whole nother
way. And may I say, I wonder it will go to the Supreme Court if this is covered by free speech, because this does seem like reckless disregard for the truth.
No, you may not say.
Okay, so yes,
just as a parent, really quickly, Sam, the scarier thing is like if somebody impersonated you, telling your daughter, "Hey, meet me behind the school. I'm picking you up there today."
That is the worst fear.
It's terrifying.
Didn't even think about that. Wow. Okay, so let's move on. Say goodbye to Mr. Potato Head. Yesterday, Hasbro announced it was removing the Mr. and Mrs. from the toys' packaging and rebranding them as just Potato Head. Hasbro insists that the toys will still look the same, just the name has changed. Still, Twitter had something to say about the new gender-neutral Spud. One person wrote, "This is taking the woke mindset too far. We were fine with Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. No need to fix it." Another said, "No disrespect to those fighting for equality, but this goes too far. It's absurd the way things are going." And finally, a lot of people are upset that Mr. Potato Head, a plastic toy based on a vegetable, is now genderless. Get a life. That was a tweet. Tori, you made some like audible groans.
Yeah.
What?
This is real dumb. This is helping.
Really?
This is helping no one. Who is winning with this? Zero people. You dilute the message. You make anyone who's trying to make this an actual stance for their daughter or son look stupid. This is awful. I think this was a huge backfire. And I think as a branding mistake, it's going to go down as a it's going to go down as like Crystal Pepsi. This is no one wins with this. No one. Who's winning with this? The kids? The parents? Hasbro? The potatoes?
That was a great point, honestly.
Until she brought up Crystal Pepsi.
That was actually, I kind of liked it incorporated in there. It was a throwback. I got to be honest with you. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. And my boss is saying right here, I don't even know if I should say this. As a white male, I couldn't say what you just said. I'm just telling you right now, I could not say that. He's probably not happy I said that. But those were my feelings. But I would have chosen not to share them because I wouldn't like the repercussions of being labeled transphobic, homophobic, genderphobic, even though I was just expressing my questions and opinions. So I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people out there feel the same way as you. But we're at a point now that it's pushed so far that I'm almost scared with what words come out of my mouth to protect myself as well as my family.
Al, what do you think? Do you feel the same way as Jeff?
I think this is just a big ploy to get everybody to start talking about Mr. Potato Head. Nobody, my kids don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
no one plays a Mr. Potato Head
Nope.
anymore.
Nope.
He is completely irrelevant,
Nope.
and he has been for a long time.
That
And
is
this is
so-
just a media marketing campaign to get Mr. Potato Head back trending again, because there would be no reason for. When was the last time you even saw one of those, Sam?
Albert, I have 2 of them in my household. And let me tell you, every single Toy Story, and there's a new Toy Story almost every year. There's even now a series. Mr. Potato Head is part of that Toy Story cast. So Potato Head.
He has no swag. He's all looks. He has no what are his views on anything?
Potato
I don't know
Head
anything
is-
about him except he can take his
He's
face
a good
off.
husband. He's a faithful husband and a good legume.
But I don't think he's a legume.
What is a
He's
legume?
a vegetable.
It's
That's
a root
bean.
vegetable.
He's not a legume.
Okay.
Let's get confirmation on that. Coming up on DBL, a medical miracle. After a mother dies while giving birth and comes back to life after 37 seconds on the other side, the craziest part, she predicted it would happen, and she's going to tell us all about it. And our DBL staff working hard at home during the pandemic when COVID is all behind us. We cannot wait to reunite with you all in the studio. We'll be right back.
Closed captioning provided. So Stephanie, let's fast forward to delivery day. You go into labor early, your husband is out of town. What happens when you get to the hospital?
I'm scared out of my mind because I am acutely aware that this is the day I'm going to die. And so imagine being buried alive and you're just holding your breath, or like trying to get as much air as you can as the dirt is being pushed onto you. And so I'm being triaged. The doctor's like,
At DBL, we're always on.
I'm in control. You're trying to give a conversation up here.
Shouldn't he be held accountable?
Absolutely.
This is where I'm going to push back.
Is this my shocked face?
Tori, I will walk off the set.
You should.
This February, DBL is all new.
I agree with Al on this one.
Every day.
Yeah, wow, I said it, Tori. Yo.
I'm in control, 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 control.
Welcome back to DBL. Do you trust your intuition? Would you bet your life on it? Earlier, Erica chatted with Stephanie Arnold, a woman who saw her own death months before it actually happened. Here is her remarkable story and what she saw during the 37 seconds that she died.
Stephanie, welcome to DBL. I have to tell you, girl, your story gives me full body chills because I don't have the words.
thank you. I didn't have the words after I came out of it, but yes, thank you so much.
Well, let's walk through your story for our audience because you were halfway through your second pregnancy when you started to have premonitions about your delivery. What did you specifically see?
So at the 20-week ultrasound, I was diagnosed with the placenta previa, which is a 1 in 200 risk where the placenta is growing on top of the cervix. But ultimately, as the belly grows, the placenta will move out of the way. And really the worst case scenario people are worried about is having a C-section. But I had had a baby before and I'd had a C-section before. So I wasn't worried about this. But in that moment, I told my husband, I've got a bad feeling about this. It was more of a knowing there was something coming. And you know how you don't know how you know things,
Right.
but you know them. So what does one do when you go home and you have a computer in front of you? You start Googling what is a placenta previa and what have you. So I read placenta previa can turn into an accreta, which is what Kim Kardashian had, right? The placenta merges with the uterus. If that happens, you might bleed. If that happens, you might need a hysterectomy. If that happens, you might hemorrhage. And worst case scenario is you and the baby might lose your life. And in that moment, I sat back and I looked at my husband, who's a PhD from University of Chicago, economist, former Air Force pilot, very logical and analytical. I said, this is going to happen to us. The only difference is the baby's going to be fine. But I started telling every single person I saw, doctors, nurses, everything.
I just have to tell you, I'm a firm believer in trusting your premonitions, trusting those messages that you might be receiving from different places, maybe a dream, maybe something that repeatedly gives you the same message. So you didn't live in fear, you actually took action.
Well, you live in fear because you know that the D-Day is the day you're going to deliver. So I had 3 months to save my life. And I didn't question where those messages were coming from because they weren't in dreams, they were visions. I mean, at one point I was walking through a park and the fountain was dry and it was a cold winter day and I was explaining to my daughter, who was 2 at the time, about how the fountain is, and then all of a sudden in mind's eye the fountain would be spurting and then it turned to blood, and I had a visceral reaction to a hemorrhage, like my blood rushing out. And I went straight to the hospital and I met my husband there and they triaged me and I said, Mrs. Arnold, are you okay? I'm like, no, obviously I'm not. Obviously I'm hemorrhaging. And they're like, no, you're actually okay. Everything's fine. Amniotic fluid's fine. Everything's fine. And maybe you're just stressed. And my husband was like, okay, it's a false alarm. And I'm like, no, this is a warning.
So how did you try to change the course of your premonition, knowing that other people thought that you were just out of touch?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't stop. I basically posted on Facebook, if anybody has my blood type, I'm going to need it. I wrote goodbye letters. Wow. I sent out goodbye letters. I met with specialists. I am running out of people to tell my crazy foreboding story to. My last-ditch effort was what helped.
Stephanie, please stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk about the day your premonition came true and what you actually saw during the 37 seconds that you died. Plus, the one thing we can all learn from your story. Stay with us.
People are wearing masks.
Numbers thrown around when it comes to Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus vaccine. But what do they mean? Let's connect the dots. The FDA has released its analysis of the single-shot COVID vaccine, reporting it was 66% effective in preventing moderate to severe cases around the world. But when you don't include moderate cases, it's 85% effective and death. Even some of the figures that don't look as promising have a silver lining. Johnson & Johnson's shot was only 64% effective in South African trials, where a contagious variant is now responsible for most cases. But that's significantly better than other vaccines tried in the country and led the government to stop administering the AstraZeneca vaccine and start giving Johnson & Johnson's instead. The other reason health experts think the Johnson & Johnson vaccine could be an effective weapon in the war on COVID is it's a single shot. Plus, it can be stored at normal refrigeration temperatures for at least 3 months, making it easier to distribute and fully vaccinate people.
Welcome back to DBL. We're continuing our conversation with Stephanie Arnold, a woman who saw her own death months before it actually happened. So Stephanie, let's fast forward to delivery day. You go into labor early, your husband is out of town. What happens when you get to the hospital?
I'm scared out of my mind because I am acutely aware that this is the day I'm going to die. And so imagine being buried alive and you're just holding your breath, or like trying to get as much air as you can as the dirt is being pushed onto you. And so I'm being triaged. The doctor's like, let's take Jacob now because the ORs are quiet. And, you know, I kiss my daughter a million times. I'm texting with my husband on Skype chat and trying to tell him that these are the last words that he's ever going to read from me. Oh my gosh. I tell one more time to my doctor, I said, there's something wrong. You need to put me under general anesthesia. She says, if I do that, I'm going to put the baby to sleep. Stephanie, I know you're nervous and I know Jonathan's not here, but you're going to be fine. You're in a teaching hospital. You're good. And I'm being wheeled into the OR that's going to give life to my son and take mine.
Okay, so you died for 37 seconds.
I did. They deliver a healthy, happy baby, and then seconds later, I'm dead on the operating table. So the first phase is cardiac arrest, you flatline. And there was one thing in the OR that I didn't predict, which was there was extra blood in a crash cart present. And in one consultation, my very last ditch effort, I had a consultation with anesthesia and I explained to her what I thought was going to happen. And she said she was very uncomfortable with that call. And with that one phone call, she flagged my file and incorporated the extra blood and crash cart in the operating room. And that is 100% why I'm still alive.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps right now. What did you see when you were dead for 37 seconds?
So I saw what people were doing in the OR. I saw who jumped on my chest to give me CPR. I saw who hit the button for the code. I saw where my doctors were standing. And remember, I was having a C-section, so there was a curtain in front of my face. Once you get intubated, your eyes get taped shut. And so once they resuscitate you, then I kept seeing what my daughter was doing down the hallway, that there were spirits present. When I come out of this and I explain everything that happened, including that my own doctor didn't deliver the baby and like all of the things that I saw in the OR, and they said, I didn't go to medical school for this. This does not make any sense to me, but it's accurate down to where we were standing and what we were doing. And they're like, I'll give you that the hearing is the last to go, but you most certainly couldn't have seen. And Jonathan's like, at some point I have to just give it to you that the Sherlock Holmes quote, once you eliminate the impossible, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
What do you want people to take away from your story?
Intuition can literally save your life. And, you know, the one thing my doctors were missing was that this was not typical behavior of me. Like I'd had a baby before. So for them, they weren't using their own intuition that this was atypical behavior for Stephanie. I'm just saying to trust it and speak up when you sense something is wrong, because at the end of the day, you will never regret speaking up and being wrong. The second message I have is that life does not end when we physically do. We just transition from a solid to a gas.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. To our DBL Nation, if you want to learn more about Stephanie's story, go to Hoopla Digital to download a free copy of her audiobook, 37 Seconds, Dying Revealed, Heaven's Help. You can also visit her website, stephaniearnold.net. Stephanie, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by
Let's start with the claim. Quote, the COVID-19 vaccine really isn't a vaccine in the medical definition of a vaccine, end quote. Why are we talking about this? Well, posts like these have been showing up for months saying that the vaccines aren't legitimate and that taking them could change your DNA or cause other frightening outcomes. So let's verify. Are these claims accurate? Do existing COVID-19 vaccines fail to meet the medical definition of vaccine? Our sources are the CDC, the Department of Health and Human Services, and Dr. Daniel Salmon, a professor at Johns Hopkins with specialties in epidemiology and vaccine safety. So right off the bat, these posts are misleading. They talk about the medical definition of a vaccine, but there isn't just one single definition. The DHHS actually lists multiple types of vaccines. They work differently, but their purpose is the same. They prevent disease.
What a preventative vaccine is something you give to your body that stimulates an immune response so that if and when you're exposed to the natural infection, your body will already be prepared to respond. Certainly, the COVID vaccines fall into that category of being a preventative vaccines.
So the vaccines are legitimate. And as for the second part of the claim, well, the CDC and Dr. Salman say existing vaccines don't change or interact with your DNA in any way.
People think, oh my God, it's gonna change my DNA, or it's somehow altering my DNA. And that's not the case at all. I mean, it's a technological approach. I mean, if you think about it, if you eat an apple, you've just eaten the DNA of an apple. That doesn't mean that it's going to change your DNA. It's certainly not going to turn you into an apple, right?
So bottom line, these claims are false. With Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
This February, DBL is all new every day.
No, I think that's ridiculous.
Really? Okay. Like, it is such a joke. I was shocked.
I meant for you to chime in on.
I don't know what you're saying.
DBL is just getting started.
Here come the Pistons.
I love this story. Stick with us in 2021. We're going to have a great year.
In regard to Potato Head. Marcy says potatoes, Tori, are root vegetables.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Not legumes.
I apologize.
Drea says the PC police has gone too far this time.
And what I meant by what I was saying was like the labels are getting people scared to speak up, and not speak up in a negative way, just have a conversation. That's what my whole argument was. You got a quick joke?
Well, what do you call a lazy spud? A couch potato.
Did you listen at all to what I said?
Probably not. She just wanted quick goodbye to our coworkers who tuned in from home. Bye, guys. We'll see you later, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. I liked your joke.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you.